Welcome to the Finding Your Purpose podcast. My name is Monica Hohe. I'm a psychotherapist, conscious coach, and someone passionate about helping people take steps towards living with clarity and purpose. In this 6-part series, I'll be speaking with individuals who are aligning with their purpose and are an inspiration to others to find theirs. I hope the conversations in this podcast encourage you to find yours. Today, I'd like to introduce Hannah Miller. I first met Hannah up in the foothills of the Dublin Mountains, where she'd just brought some goats from Killiney and was confidently opening her car and getting out and sorting the goats. She'd just moved from Killiney up to Fernhill. And I thought, that's a very interesting person. And, you know, she seems sort of intelligent and knows what she's about. And here she is involved in wild Irish goats. So she agreed to come on today. And it turns out, as I guessed, she's had a multifaceted career, professional musician, festival director and goat herder. She grew up in a rural farm in County Wexford, having found her way to music through Wexford Sinfonia, a local orchestra founded by her grandparents, and began playing the French horn as a teenager. She went on to study the horn at the Royal Irish Academy of Music in Dublin and followed an Erasmus year at the Sibelius Academy in Helsinki, where she then won an orchestral job with the Copia Symphony Orchestra in Finland. She currently works as principal horn with the Irish National Opera and joined the Irish Chamber Orchestra in 2023. In 2024, she took on a new role as goat herder with the Old Irish Goat Society, working with a herd of native Irish goats to manage fire breaks and eco-grazing sites for Dunleary Rathdown County Council. She's also the festival director and founder of Fuddlefest. So, welcome, Hannah. Clearly, you're a woman with a purpose, and I'm delighted to interview for this podcast series about finding your purpose. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you got to be a musician and goat herder.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny balance and combination. Like whenever I introduce myself now, like I used to be like just introducing myself as a musician and people would be accepting that at face value and stuff. But now when I say musician and goat herder, it's throws people for a bit of a loop that they kind of don't know what to ask questions about first and stuff. But so definitely a lot going on. But from growing up on a farm, I've always had an interest in animals and in the environment. And in 2020 during lockdown, we got goats at our family farm for the first time. We had goats when I was a young child, but hadn't had goats for years. And then during all the kind of COVID lockdown measures, we were kind of all trapped at home and we were kind of looking around the farm and decided to clear the place up a little bit, and goats are a really good solution for that. We had a really overgrown forest and decided to get a few goats. So I just became completely obsessed with them then and totally fell in love. And I was following along this project that the Old Irish Goat Society were doing up in Howth, kind of online, that they were deployed goats there to manage fire breaks. And there had been a huge wildfire about 6 years ago up on Howth Head, and they were deploying goats to try tackle that problem. And then position came up with the Old Irish Goat Society last year looking for a goat herder to bring goats down to the south side of Dublin, where me and my partner were already living. So we're based in Ballybrack, and they were looking for a goat herder for Killiney Hill. So it was only 5 minutes down the road. So it seemed really kind of like fate or something that like the thing that I was interested in already was being presented on my doorstep. Wonderful. So I just had to go for it. So I applied for it and I ended up getting the job. So I've been working with the goats there on Killiney Hill and in Fernhill as well since January this year.
It's incredible. And do you think there are many people who were looking for that job as goat herder?
I've no idea. Like, it's really because all of my training up to that point was as a musician. So all I'm familiar with is like audition training and, you know, the kind of cutthroat nature of the music world and all of that, kind of navigating the freelance scene as a musician. So I don't know what the competition is like in terms of goat herder scene quite yet. But
and what's it like to be doing this job?
It's a lovely balance, because especially being a professional musician, it's very kind of sedentary and like a lot of sitting down in rehearsals. You know, it's all very intense and focused, often in rooms with no windows and stuff, in concert halls and things like that. So it's a real breath of fresh air, literally, to be out in the morning kind of checking on the goats, hiking up hills and doing the kind of daily checks and everything, and then working with the land and working with animals. It just is a real nice contrast. I wouldn't want to kind of give up either of them now at this point. Like, it's a really nice kind of balance between the two things of a really active job and a really sedentary job, but in really
and you have
different ways.
24 goats.
I have 24 goats, yeah. So I have a herd of 13 over in Fernhill and I have 11 over on Killiney Hill. So I've gone between the two places.
Incredible. And do you know them all individually then?
Yeah, they're all named and everything like that, so that we can kind of keep track of them and everything. And they're quite good. Like, they're the old Irish goat and they have very distinctive colouring and markings and stuff. So you can very easily tell them apart from each other. There's 2 little goats in the Fernhill crew that look quite similar that I sometimes get confused between, but they're the only 2 that catch me out every so often.
But it does seem to be that it's a wonderful combination to be doing your music and to being a musician, and then also to being out in the open. And that beautiful evening where I met you and coming down off the hill with having attended to your goats. It seems like a wonderful combination. I mean, is this it? Have you arrived now? Is this your...
Yeah.
Have you found your purpose?
I feel like I have found my purpose. Like, I think especially working as a musician, like in the arts and everything, you're having a really kind of emotional and often like spiritual impact on people's lives around you, that like presenting music and concerts and stuff like that touches people emotionally, very much. And it's very fulfilling in one way, but then it's really fulfilling to do the goat job as well, because it has a really kind of tangible difference that you're making, like on an environmental level and an ecological level and stuff, that you can actually like see the results really clearly of what impact you're providing to nature.
And explain a little bit more about that. Why is it so good? Why is it so ecologically friendly to have these goats?
Well, the role of the goats that I'm working with in Dublin are to manage fire breaks, is one of their main roles, and then eco-grazing is another part of it as well. So at the moment, the goats in Fernhill are grazing on the fire break, which is reducing the gorse, which is kind of their favourite food. And the gorse grows really quickly and gets very dense, and it's really oily and flammable. And normally what the council have to do to protect the houses on either side from wildfire, because if the gorse kind of catches fire, it takes off really quickly, and you can see it all the time when there's wildfires. Like even yesterday, there was up on the Ballycourse Road, there was a wildfire that you could see for miles like that. It was really like has a really devastating impact on the environment and the habitats around it and everything, all the poor wild animals. And the goats kind of reduce that gorse by trimming it back and trashing it with their horns and everything, and means that it just kind of removes the fuel load for wildfires, so it reduces the risk of wildfire happening and spreading. Whereas the council would have used to like have to mechanically cut and go in with machinery and do all of that. So that totally removes the habitat for badgers and mice and everything like that, like to be kind of having a bit of cover and everything like that. So the goats are a much more kind of ecological approach, kind of a nature-based solution to the problem.
And would you like to see this project then be developed throughout Ireland, or will it be?
Yeah, I think the Old Irish Goat Society is quite a new company. I think it was only 2017 when they were founded. So it's growing and rising. Like they have increasing number of goats as part of the team, sort of thing, like through a breeding program that goes on in Howth. And they're kind of rolling out projects in various places. Like there's some goats up in Douth in County Meath at the moment, and they're hoping to bring some to the Burren next year. And there's kind of like very slow progress through lots of different areas.
Yeah, great.
So I think a lot of councils will kind of take it on as a part of their fire management plan in the future as well.
Yeah. And I know it doesn't suit all terrains. I remember when I did voluntary service overseas and somebody's job was setting up goats in the South Pacific, but it didn't work. There wasn't the right environment. I always remember that. We used to laugh at this poor fella travelled over from the UK and the project didn't work out because it's obviously not suitable for all habitats.
Yeah, it has to be kind of the nature-based solution kind of has to suit the area and stuff. So it depends where the goats can go.
But so in answer to my question, you do feel you have found your purpose, that you jump out of bed in the morning and enjoy going to work? And
absolutely, yeah, I really, really enjoy it. And it's just very satisfying work to be doing, and it's like lovely to be working out in nature and with your hands and everything as well.
Exactly, yeah. And what would you say to that lady? You know, you said before you came on there that you met some woman saying, oh, I'd love my son to do that. I mean, what would your tips be to somebody who's maybe trying to guide their children into finding what their purpose is? What would you have said to that woman, or what?
Well, it's like funny because so I had met a woman who was wondering like what course I had taken in college to get into this kind of role and stuff, and I had to disappoint her by saying music. Like that. It's like not necessarily always a straightforward path, and whatever you do decide to do following school doesn't always like lead to the job that relates to that thing. Obviously, I studied music and I am a musician as well, but you know, there's like all these different sort of paths that you can take along the way that might lead you to finding your true purpose, I suppose. And
and what I have found, just to add to that, Hannah, is so there you are, you did the music, you're good at it, you enjoy it, and then when you build something onto that, you come already with this person who's pretty fulfilled and, you're sort of coming from yourself, authentic self, then that does lead to other things. I've always found that, I've gone for interviews doing other things or, it's like I invite people to come on here. They say yes because I'm already in my groove with something else as a therapist. Do you know what I mean? I think that it's about owning where we are.
And being open to change and open to opportunities as well. Like that.
Yeah.
I could have really easily just seen that advertised and said, imagine, and just thought of it as an imagination kind of thing and continued on my path.
Yes.
But I'm really glad that I took the leap and decided to go for it.
And had you thought about this idea of purpose before I met you in the park? Is it something that you think about, I really want to find my purpose? Or
not necessarily like in a particular like spiritual way or anything like that, but like it's something that I have always been a person who's mad for to-do lists and like goals and stuff. And I think that's probably like a very kind of musician goal-driven kind of oriented way that we act and behave. Like I would always be like working towards something and working towards a concert, working towards the next audition that you're going to do and stuff. So it's all very kind of like planning for the future and like looking ahead and putting the steps in place to get there. So I suppose I've always been very driven towards something.
Keeping going with the next,
kind of project by project and stuff. And I suppose that
and then
a lot
what
of that
happened,
is purpose-driven.
Yes, and then what happened then with COVID and lockdown? You were confined into the farm. And then what happened? How did that evolve then that you say a bit more about that?
When lockdown hit, I was actually in the middle of my master's degree I was studying in Juilliard over in New York.
Yeah.
And it was like all cut short very suddenly. Like I was supposed to be graduating in May and obviously in March then everything collapsed and we were shut down when I was really fortunate to be home in Ireland at the time when that happened on like a midterm break.
Yeah.
So I didn't get trapped over in New York, which would have been a really difficult experience and, really confined. So I was lucky enough to be at home on my family farm. So we had the freedom of space at least. And yeah, me and all my siblings, we were home kind of trying to figure out what to do with our lives, playing a lot of board games, going on a lot of walks and all that kind of thing like everyone else, I'm sure. And we kind of decided to tackle the farm and clean it up, make it more functional because it had been kind of generations of collecting of hoarding and all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
so we were kind of clearing out buildings and stuff that had like a lot of old machinery in them and stuff and like inches of dust and stuff. And then we have a forest on our farm that was really overgrown and you could barely walk through it at all. So we decided to get a few goats to kind of clear out that a little bit. And
you went to get goats?
Yeah, so we got just 2 goats just to kind of clear that forest.
Where did you go to get goats?
There was just a farmer down the road who had a goat farm and he was like, that was his business, like was breeding and selling goats. So we just got a couple of goats from him to clear the land a little bit and kind of like tidy up all the ditches and things like that. And they did a fantastic job and I just fell in love with them completely. Like they're such great pets in a way that I ended up getting more. So I have a little herd of 4 goats at home now in Wexford.
Wow. This is a new concept to me, but going to get goats to clear
goats. Just go get a few. Yeah.
But that's their purpose ecologically in clearing shrub and clearing land. And
yeah, well, I'm sure that the farmer who was breeding and selling them was more maybe with milk and like milking and breeding and meat potentially.
Yeah.
For most of those goats, because when he like a few years later he was actually reducing his herd and he had a very elderly goat who wasn't suitable for any of those things.
Yeah.
And he actually rang us to see if we'd take her because he knew that we were only using our goats for grazing. Yeah. So he thought that we might be a good fit for kind of rehoming her and stuff as well. So we did that. So that's how we kind of ended up expanding our herd a little bit as well.
Very good. So if we're going to try and sort of narrow down then, how did you find your purpose? If we try and, you've told me this story, but what was it then? Was it following your interest or noticing what it is that you really like doing or,
I think in the years I was living abroad in Finland for 4 years and then in New York for 2 years. Yeah. And I had in my mind that after that point of graduating, I wanted to move back to Ireland and wanted to be more involved with farming. So like in a way, when lockdown hit and I was brought back to the farm, like catapulted back to the farm.
Yeah.
It kind of like really worked in my favour in a way because it meant that I could really kind of ground myself being back in Ireland and being home. And it's always been like a dream of mine to work with animals and work, like when I would have been in school, I would have done like work experience with the local farm vet and stuff. Like I've always had a big interest in animals. And yeah, I suppose I just became really fortunate like to be able to have that time and space where my music career was halted in a way. And it just kind of cleared space for other interests to creep in and kind of find a purpose in that way.
Yeah.
There was kind of time and space to do that.
But it's also, again, the listening in. That's one of the themes that's come through with the people I've been talking too about how did they find their purpose. And it's like you were listening in, you knew you wanted to come back to Ireland to be on the farm and be with the land and the animals. Yeah. And then so you weren't sitting at home watching Netflix.
No.
You might have done that as well.
No.
But you were really, okay, so let's get out of the animals. Let's try and create something here on the farm. And but so it's listening in, would you say, and noticing, God, I really like these animals. I really like working with them. I really feel good when I'm out in the air. And
yeah, I think so. And just kind of like adapting your plans and being flexible and stuff, that you can actually make changes, and they can be small changes or they can be very drastic changes, like becoming a goat herder. But like you can make changes to your life to kind of find the things you enjoy doing. And it's such a privilege to be able to really enjoy doing your work as well. Like that, I'm really lucky to be able to be a musician and to be a goat herder. Like they're two of my big passions that I get to do both of those things. Yeah. I'm so fortunate like that. So many people, I think, really don't enjoy their work, and it's just a means to an end. And
that's right.
It's really, you're in a really fortunate position, I think, if you can go to work every day and be really happy doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And often people can't follow their passions to make a living, because you might be playing golf or you might be doing arts and crafts, but you're not going to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
But you found a way to be able to earn some money and make a job out of these two interests that you have.
Someone has made a joke before of like that, like obviously being a musician is a kind of infamously difficult financial place to be in, and people always tell their children not to go into the arts and stuff like that because it can be quite financially straining and everything as a career. And then I say being a goat herder is probably no different either, like that. But I can make it work with the two.
Well, the two combined. Yeah. But it's a pretty impressive musical CV as well. You're pretty sort of high achiever in terms of your musical ability.
Yeah, I think that's another place where I have a fortunate position of playing an unusual instrument like that. Like the French horn isn't a very popular choice, I suppose. So there's not very many of us in Ireland playing the horn professionally, and there's not that many freelancers who do it. So in a way, there's like not a huge competition for all of the work that's available. So we're all in a small kind of community.
So is that
players.
Another tip in terms of finding your purpose is don't worry if nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, definitely. That makes you unique in a way.
Yes,
and if you carve your own path.
Exactly. If it's something you're interested in, do it and get good at it. And
you can be that specialist person.
Yes. And you've done that now with both areas of your life. I
suppose so, yeah. And obviously with the goats, I've only just started in January, so it's only a real new venture and stuff, but I'm sure the goats will be with me for life now.
Yeah. And you know what I wrote to you in the email, that I think now is the time when more and more people are trying to figure out what's their piece in the jigsaw, and that the old map and the old paradigm we had of, get a proper job and buy a house and work hard and, say your prayers and go to mass, all that. I think that's all changing. Now, obviously still people pray and all that is fine. But I think we're looking for new maps and new ways of living our lives and new, there's a paradigm shift going on. And that's why I'm interested in talking to people about their purpose and how they found some way to make a living and to do something, that has meaning to them. Do you have any comments on that? Do you think that that's true, that there is a societal thing going on, that there are more people with their handmade lives,
Yeah, I think so. I feel like in the circles that I am in, at least, it feels like that's becoming more prevalent and stuff but because in the arts, I feel like people are always looking for new ways to connect with people and, be doing creatively different things and stuff. So I feel like I'm surrounded with a lot of people who are living kind of their best lives and trying to live their best lives in that kind of way.
Very
for sure.
Good, And the expression was a handmade life. It is Clarissa Pinkola Estes talked years in one of her books about the handmade life. And I think that's now on track, that the people are creating their handmade lives. And that really definitely excites me. Yeah.
Trying to do something different and
that's relevant to them. That's their piece of the jigsaw. It's really, that's what struck me when I met you. That sounds like she's got her piece of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about this festival. That's another interesting string to your bow.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. So,
and you're a festival organizer as well.
Yeah, so me and my family founded this festival at our home place in Fuddletown, so we call it Fuddlefest down in Wexford. We had the first festival in 2020, so it was kind of started off as a kind of a way, during lockdown there was just no music happening at all, and I just wanted to there was this little kind of gap in the lockdown measures, and I wanted to create a bit of employment for all my friends who had been kind of just practicing in their living rooms for months and stuff, and might have had pieces that they wanted to present but had nowhere to present them because nothing was going on and nothing was being planned and stuff. So it was just kind of a group of friends all doing kind of chamber music in the garden And it was so successful that we decided, Jesus, this is actually quite a good model. Like we might continue on with this. So we're doing our 5th festival this year. And have an amazing lineup. It's a 2-day kind of camping festival, and it's multi-genre. There's lots of classical music. Like we have the opening concert with Wexford Sinfonia in the barn, so like full orchestral concert, kind of kicking it off with a big bang, and then goes from everything to we have Irish trad music with Zoe Conway and John McIntyre, who are kind of the absolute gems of Irish trad music. And then we've even rock music and rave music in the nighttime in the barn, and loads of indie folk music. There's an amazing singer-songwriter called Jay Smith who's coming this year, who I'm really excited to hear. And kind of everything in between as well, lots of experimental classical music, everything you could kind of imagine under the
And you just love doing that. That's one of yours.
Yeah, I just get a lot of kind of fulfillment from it. It's really obviously incredibly stressful with organising it, because there's so many kind of cogs turning and trying to fit all the pieces together of the puzzle, but we're getting there now. So, and because we've done it several times now, we kind of have a format for it and have it kind of all sussed out in that way. So it's only putting out small fires every so often with little things that go wrong.
And are your family into music? I'm sure they're all musicians, are they?
They're all very artistic anyway, for sure. My father plays clarinet, and he is the chairman of the Wexford Sinfonia, but he also works for the lifeboat and is a farmer. Everyone has a lot going on. And my mother is a patchwork quilt artist, and she does an amazing kind of gardening spectacle. Our garden is to die for, really. It's lovely. And she's put 30 years of work into kind of crafting all of these different sections of the garden and stuff. So it's a really nice kind of area for the audience to walk through and everything. And my younger brother's a drummer in rock bands and stuff, so that's where kind of the rock element comes in. I have a lot of contacts there with him and everything as well. So there's a lot of music and a lot of art and creativity going on at home.
That's wonderful. Yeah, okay. And so this festival's on every year. I don't know whether I'll get this podcast out for the end of August this year, but it's on every year end of August.
So it'll be end of August next year as well, for sure. It'll be one to watch for sure.
Great, okay. Hannah, that's great. I'm really glad to hear all that about the goats, and it sounds like you come from a very interesting, creative background, and you're all sort of making a living in different ways, and people are sort of lining up with what they're here to do, which is really interesting. Yeah,
good set of skills throughout the whole bunch.
Yeah. And just one final question. As we think about the listeners and listening to your story about your proficiency in music and this unusual job you have as a goat herder. And how did you end up living according to your purpose? Was it just luck? Was it nurturing? Was it believing in yourself? Or what was it? Again, it's how do we help people who are listening line up with their purpose? What did you do?
Well, I think probably a lot of it came from the nurturing environment I had when I was growing up, that we were given a lot of freedom and flexibility to do what we wanted to. There was no, I wasn't being forced to practice the horn, every day or anything like that, but it was something that I really liked to do. And I also played the violin, but I wasn't that very good at that. And my parents just let me drop it, and they weren't really kind of pushing us in any particular direction, and they were letting us find our own path between me and all my siblings and stuff. So we all kind of carved out very different paths for ourselves by being given that kind of supportive, nurturing kind of state, and just being allowed to find ourselves a little bit. And then probably also supported this kind of belief in myself and what I want to do, and the kind of conviction of and kind of confidence, I suppose, in what I'm doing, because I was allowed to kind of discover that for myself all my childhood and growing up. So I kind of really have always felt kind of quite sure about what I wanted to do, and in that way. And then in terms of for people who are trying to kind of find their purpose and stuff, I find it can be quite overwhelming if you have this huge, big life goal that you want to achieve or something like that. But if you break it down into, okay, well, what small things can I do today that might lead in that direction? That might, if you take really small steps towards a goal, it might open up pathways to various other goals that you might have not expected or not seen before. Great, when you're only looking at the overarching vision and stuff. So I think small steps is a good way to go about it.
And trusting yourself is the other thing. Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And then just, you're saying that it was great growing up, that you did have parents who are saying, oh, that's a great idea, Hannah, or that's okay, you can give that instrument up. They were very much supporting your creativity. And I think just to say that as a psychotherapist, that we can repair that for those who didn't have that kind of, you're great whatever you're doing, and that's you can see your talent in that. And if we didn't have that kind of reinforcement, you can still get it as an adult from other things, whether it's a therapist, coach, mentor, etc. So, but it does really help to be able to have that support, and then you can give it to yourself now as an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you know that might be something that's beneficial to you, you can do that for yourself as well, like to give yourself that space and support.
Yeah, because often people are very hard on themselves and very critical of themselves. Listen, thanks very much, Hannah.
Thanks, Monica.